We are back, and I just finished an amazing miniseries on Disney Plus called Light and Magic with all my heroes. It's directed by Lawrence Kasdan. He directed all 6 episodes, and this is basically, it shows you the beginning, the forming of Industrial Light and Magic, all the trials and tribulations that the crew went through in order to get from A to B, everything that was created for the original 77 Star Wars, and so on and so on and so on, all the way up until modern day times with CGI and all of the effects that they do now. This was one of my favorite miniseries to watch. The 6 episodes, they're all about an hour a piece. Of course, George Lucas, they interview him in this, and this really hit home because I met Lucas in the 90s on a movie called Radioland Murders. And I have to thank my friend Craig Edwards, who's also a writer, and he was a first assistant director. He got me in the room with him there when he was directing some second unit stuff, because the director of that film, Mel Smith, I believe it was Mel Smith, his green card expired or something to work in the U.S. And so all the pickups that were done, George directed. And that was something that wasn't really talked about out there because he wasn't directing stuff at that time. But I got to meet him and I got to talk to him very briefly. And so anytime I see an interview with George, I get excited because it's just getting more information from my childhood. I remember when I met George, I'm 5'9", and he's a lot shorter than I was, because I remember as a kid, you know, you're watching all the documentaries or the behind the scenes featurettes and things like this on all the Star Wars films growing up, and he's on TVs, this big figure. And then when you get him in a room, you know, he's like a little tiny guy. And I remember his hair, because he had that really nice blowed out hair for years. It seemed like his hair was 6 inches higher on his head than, which made him taller, but he really wasn't that much taller. Loved meeting him. But anytime I see George in any kind of thing, I just get excited. Dennis Muren, I'm a huge fan of Dennis Muren's work, followed him throughout his life. But this was an amazing documentary. Lauren Peterson was in it. Ron Howard was in it, of course, as a guest. He was also, I think, one of the producers of this. Phil Tippett, you know, all the stop motion animation, learning where all these guys came from. Ken Ralston, Joe Johnston. Beautiful moment in episode, I think it was 4, with Joe Johnston. Not going to spoil it, but George is a hero once again for doing what he did for Joe Johnston. Of course, James Cameron is in it, being interviewed because of The Abyss, and Steven Spielberg's in it, John Dykstra, and so on and so on. And of course, you know, Kathleen Kennedy's all up in there because she was in there from almost the beginning with Spielberg. Brought her on board as they were doing in between every Star Wars film. They would do like a Spielberg movie, and that's how kind of Industrial Light and Magic grew. Jon Favreau, Doug Chiang, all of the artists and everything, and watching them go through everything where, you know, CGI started to take over in the 90s, and what that did to the creature shop and the people that were making things. And this is by far one of the greatest. And thank you, Larry Kasdan, for directing this. This was awesome. You know, John Knoll, they talked all about John Knoll. I had seen John Knoll in all of the featurettes from the behind the scenes on The Phantom Menace and things like that. And of course, John Knoll is the one who figured out, hey, you know, he pitched Rogue One, said, hey, why don't we make a movie about that one paragraph in the opening crawl, the spies that steal the rebel or steal the plans for the Death Star. So, you know, and you see where he comes from, and you see where his brother, you know, invented Photoshop and things that I use to this day, and I had no idea because no one reads the fine print. So just really great stuff on history and how all of it interacted together and gave us the things that we have today. We owe so much of a revolution in the 80s and 90s, going all the way back to 77 or 76 when they first shot Star Wars. We owe so much to Industrial Light and Magic for changing the way we've made films for the last 80 years prior to 76, when nobody could do the things that George wanted. And George would just, he just got pulled these guys together. And I'm sure it was very frustrating in the beginning. When you watch all the behind the scenes, people had Super 8s and they shot footage on Super 8. And then the metamorphosis, as time goes on, they shot video and VHS of all the behind the scenes and parties and things that they did. And it's just, and it says season 1. So I'm hoping there's a season 2. Because one of the other things about all of the individuals in this documentary, this miniseries, is they're all aging out. And getting these interviews with some of these great people, knowing they're not going to be here forever, telling this story of how Industrial Light and Magic was created and Pixar and everything. It's just like we need more of this. It's almost like archival, this stuff should be, in the archives in DC, this miniseries. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. George has this way of every time somebody would tell him, well, I don't know, we can't do that. We can't do that. And he'd just say this one phrase, well, think about it. Just think about it. And they would think about it. And of course, the wheels start turning and everybody would do whatever George needed or wanted in order to, because he was such a visionary and still is a visionary. And, so I just absolutely love this. I can't brag enough about it. Thank you everybody that was involved in this, all the interviews. I hope and pray that they do a season 2, since it does list it as season 1. Guys, what are your thoughts? Have you seen Light and Magic? Let's talk about it in the comment section, and we'll see you on the next one.